Why motivation is overrated. What if the advice you've been hearing your entire life is wrong? When people want to get fit, start a business, study harder, or build better habits, they're often told the same thing: just get motivated. But there's a problem. Motivation is one of the most unreliable forces in human behavior. It's here one day and gone the next. And if you've ever waited until you felt motivated to do something important, you've probably discovered how rarely that moment arrives. So if motivation isn't the answer, what is? Today, we'll explore what psychology and behavioral science reveal about motivation, why successful people don't depend on it, and what actually drives consistent action. The answer may completely change the way you approach your goals. The motivation myth. Most people imagine success like this: first, you feel motivated. Then, you take action. Then, you get results. It sounds logical. After all, why would someone start exercising, studying, or working on a difficult project if they didn't feel motivated first? But real life often works in the opposite direction. Think about the last time you procrastinated on something important. Maybe it was a report, a workout, a difficult conversation, or simply cleaning your room. At first, you didn't feel like doing it. You waited. And waited. Yet motivation never appeared. Then eventually, maybe because of a deadline or a burst of determination, you finally started. And something interesting happened. After a few minutes, the task didn't seem quite as difficult anymore. You began making progress. And suddenly, motivation showed up. The feeling you were waiting for didn't come before action. It came after action. This is one of the most important insights in psychology: action often creates motivation, not the other way around. Why we overvalue motivation. So why do people believe motivation is the key? Because motivation feels powerful. When you're motivated, everything seems easier. You feel energized, focused, optimistic. You make ambitious plans. You imagine a better future. The problem is that motivation is an emotion. And emotions change constantly. Your motivation can be influenced by how much sleep you got, your stress level, your environment, your energy level, the weather, even what happened 5 minutes ago. Imagine trying to build a successful business, learn a language, write a book, or stay healthy while depending on something that changes every day. It would be like steering a ship using the wind alone. Sometimes the wind helps. Sometimes it disappears completely. That's exactly why motivation is such a poor foundation for long-term success. What science suggests instead. One of the most fascinating findings in behavioral science is that small actions can change how we feel. Psychologists sometimes refer to this principle through approaches like behavioral activation. The idea is simple. People often assume, "I'll act when I feel better." But research suggests that taking action can help create the emotional state you're waiting for. Consider exercise. Many people think they need motivation before going for a run. But studies consistently find that physical activity often improves mood afterward. The same pattern appears in many areas of life. You don't always become productive because you're motivated. Sometimes you become motivated because you've started being productive. Progress creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation. And motivation encourages further progress. The cycle begins with action, not inspiration. The hidden advantage of successful people. When we look at highly successful individuals, it's easy to assume they're simply more motivated than everyone else. But that's rarely the whole story. The people who consistently achieve difficult goals usually have something far more valuable. Systems. A writer sits down at the same time every day. A runner follows a schedule regardless of mood. A student studies according to a routine. A musician practices whether inspiration appears or not. They don't ask themselves every day, "Do I feel motivated?" Instead, they ask, "What does my system require today?" This reduces the number of decisions they need to make. And fewer decisions mean less opportunity for procrastination. In many cases, discipline isn't about having stronger willpower. It's about creating structures that make action easier. Environment often beats motivation. Here's something many people overlook. Your environment often has more influence over your behavior than your motivation. Imagine two people. One keeps their phone beside them while trying to work. The other places it in another room. Who will find it easier to focus? Not necessarily the more motivated person. The person with the better environment. If healthy food is visible and convenient, you'll eat it more often. If distractions are everywhere, you'll struggle more often. If your guitar is already on a stand beside your desk, you'll practice more often than if it's hidden in a closet. The lesson is simple. Design your environment so that good behaviors become easier and bad behaviors become harder. That's far more reliable than hoping motivation will save you. Conclusion. Motivation isn't useless. It can be incredibly helpful. The problem is treating it as a requirement. If you wait until you feel motivated, you'll spend much of your life waiting. But if you learn to take small actions first, create effective systems, and design supportive environments, something remarkable happens. You stop depending on motivation. And ironically, that's when motivation appears more often. Because progress creates energy. Progress creates confidence. Progress creates momentum. The people who achieve the most aren't always the most motivated. They're often the most consistent. And consistency is something you can build, one small action at a time. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Better by Science for more evidence-based insights into psychology, habits, productivity, and human performance. And if you've ever wondered why it's so hard to get started in the first place, watch our video on the psychology of procrastination next.